I'm here with Mary Mattingly, and you're going to tell us all about the water pod.
Okay, so the water pod is a floating sculpture, and basically what we're trying to do, 4 artists are living and working on board with a residency, so there's a room that rotates guests, and we're trying to create an autonomous system where we actually don't have to leave to see if this system, we can collect data from it right now, but the end result would hopefully be to see if we can create something that is a viable solution for land. So it's an alternative to land if for whatever reason we run out of usable land, desertification, over production on land, or too many people in one place, or sea level rise, whatever the case is there another option? So thinking about the future, thinking about New York City, and why at the time when the project was just conceived, we hadn't considered what would happen with sea level rise here. Like we had nothing planned, and it's theoretical that we could have to do something like this if we lost all lower Manhattan or whatever. So we worked with many scientists and engineers and different creators on this project to create a system that we could eat from, drink from, and could recycle our compost into. Initially, I wanted to see what would happen if we stayed on board for the entire time. And I'm doing that. Our plan is that nothing, we try to sustain ourselves on here. So
you haven't
we have
left
to buckle
this
down.
in how long? How long have you been on
3.5 weeks.
3.5 weeks?
Yeah.
Are you going like mental?
Yeah, a little bit. No. I think part of the challenge for us was seeing if we could do it in New York. What kind of permits do you need, and what are the challenges?
Right, you need like 1,000 of them.
But every time it was really fun figuring out what permit you needed and why. We were like, oh my gosh, you need a chicken permit. That's great. Let's try it.
Let's get one. How long did it take, all told, until you were like, okay, we can finally move it and do our thing?
It took about 3.5 years of planning stages to figuring out what kind of vessel we were, and to figuring out what we couldn't and couldn't do.
What kind of vessel are you?
We're an attraction vessel, certified by the Coast Guard.
So you have to go through all these permits and all these things, and yet the idea is like how to live on your own. Isn't that kind of funny?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I like to say that we're still very much, of course, inside the grid, but we're trying to live outside. So it's that interaction that's fascinating. This public space is used for lectures, tutorials, art openings, presentations of many sorts. We're going to have a musician in an hour here, so that'll be really fun. And in this space here, what we're working on in this week is a library research area.
So you are actually teaching people how to set up water purification systems?
Well, what we're doing is we're basically touring people through, and as much information as they want, we give them. So
if they want to know how to build their own,
then
you'll
we show them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this is a testing ground and also an education on what this testing ground can do or become, or if it's something that can be franchisable in the future. You got to be making clothes. Are any of you making clothes?
Not yet, but we do have a sewing machine here, and we can run power tools off of the solar, so we can probably run the sewing machine as well. That's a really good idea.
Is there any romance aboard the water pod? Because it'd be really awesome to raise a kid. Yeah, you gotta have a human being, all they know is the water pod.
Yeah.
It would actually be a great reality show.
Oh my gosh. Nobody would be for it.
Yeah. And they set up specific challenges for you guys to do that push you. And then, the winner gets the eggs.
I think it's challenging enough. I wasn't sure, what the daily schedule would be, but it's really we are getting up at 6 o'clock to feed the chickens, to take care of the gardens, to do all this housework, basically, and then we had to set aside time for personal work. So we realized from 9 to 11, it's just going to be us in our rooms, and we can't even talk with each other, because if we don't, then we would kind of lose our minds. And there's always more to do on board. There's so many aesthetic things that we're looking forward to doing right now that it's you can just work on this 24 hours a day pretty much, and then you can drive yourself crazy.
Right. So how long are you going to be doing this for?
We would hope to set it up as a permanent residency. That's our end goal for it. So
to live here.
Yeah, so people can have the experience of coming on for a month or something like that, and and being on an urban farm.
It is a very attractive vessel. It really is. I think if you live around here, you should come check it out. And if you don't, check out thewaterpod.org.
Yeah.
and learn about it. And can people like write in to you guys? Are you monitoring the site?
Yep, we're monitoring the site and checking our emails on board.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thanks
This
for
was
coming.
great. Now let's go shoot those chickens.